Dealey whispered his name, the sound of it barely escaping her lips, but she felt it resonate deep within her, a reminder that this moment was theirs. Ashton's smile softened, and he pressed a tender kiss to her forehead, his hand stroking her hair with a tenderness that made her heart swell. "I'm here," he murmured, his voice low but full of promise. "Always." She could feel the sincerity in his words, and she knew that this moment, this connection, was something they both wanted to hold on to forever. In his arms, she felt seen. She felt safe, and most of all, she felt loved in a way that was deeper than anything she had ever imagined. They stayed like that for a while, basking in the warmth of their closeness, not needing to say much, just being together, letting the silence speak volumes. And when the moment finally passed, Dealey felt a sense of peace settle over her, knowing that they had shared something truly special. Something that was built on trust, love, and understanding. Ashton woke up with a familiar yet confusing feeling, like something had shifted overnight. The warmth of her body beside him still lingered in his mind, but as he opened his eyes and saw the unfamiliar ceiling, a wave of realization hit him. This wasn't his usual morning. The bed beneath him felt too soft, and the quiet hum of the apartment was different. He shot up in bed, panic setting in as he scanned the room. It was his house, sure, but not his room. The memory of the night before rushed back to him. Dealey. The woman from his dreams, the one whose warmth still seemed to cling to him. He remembered her smile, her laugh, the way she looked at him like he was the only one in the room. The thoughts of last night stirred something deep inside him. He reached over, half expecting her body to be there, but the bed was empty, her side cold. He glanced at the time on his phone, 11:20 a.m. It was like a switch had been flipped. His mind raced, trying to piece together everything that had happened. Last night, was it real? His body still ached from the intensity of it all, but where was she now? He dragged himself out of bed, the weight of the situation starting to settle in. The joy he'd woken up with began to fade, replaced by a knot of anxiety. Was she avoiding him? Did she regret it? No, he couldn't have ruined everything, could he? The thought of her absence made his chest tighten. He needed to find her, to reassure himself that things were still okay between them. But as he walked into the hallway, a small smile tugged at his lips. He still felt the taste of her on his tongue, the memory of her body pressed against his. But he had to be careful now, things were different. They had crossed a line, and he needed to figure out where they stood. The aroma of coffee greeted him as he neared the kitchen. The sound of something sizzling on the stove was familiar, soothing even. He rounded the corner, and there she was, Dealey, standing at the stove, flipping an omelet. She was dressed, makeup perfectly in place, looking as if the night before hadn't happened at all. He couldn't help but pause, taking in the sight of her. The curve of her hips, the way she moved with ease and grace, she was still the same Dealey, but somehow different. For a moment, he watched her, mesmerized by the quiet confidence in her movements. She was wearing a pair of tight jeans that hugged her in all the right places, and he couldn't help but feel a rush of attraction. He wanted to walk up to her, pull her close, and kiss her like he had last night. But something held him back. It was the awkwardness in the air, the unspoken tension that had settled between them. Dealey turned around to place the omelet on a plate, and when she saw him standing there, her expression shifted. "Oh," she said, her voice tinged with something he couldn't quite place. "Good morning?" The way she said it made his stomach twist. There was something off about her demeanor. She wasn't the same Dealey he'd spent the night with. She wasn't smiling, and her eyes avoided his, flicking to his bare chest instead. The distance between them felt vast, and he couldn't help but feel a pang of regret. He shifted uncomfortably, trying to lighten the mood. "Good morning," he replied, scratching the back of his neck. "I hope I didn't snore last night. How did you sleep?" "Great." "Yeah, no worries." Her voice was distant, and she still wouldn't look at him directly. It felt like they were on opposite sides of a great divide, and he wasn't sure how to bridge the gap. The confusion settled deeper in his chest as he realized what had happened. This wasn't the playful, easygoing Dealey he knew. She was closed off, distant, like she was trying too hard to play it cool. It didn't sit right with him. He had to know what was going on. He hesitated before speaking. "Listen, about last night." "Oh, hey. Don't worry about it." She cut him off, her face scrunching in discomfort as she waved her hand, dismissing it all. "It was just one of those things. We were drunk. I was excited about the acceptance letter, and things got out of hand. That's all it was." The weight of her words settled heavily on him. Drunk? Was that really how she saw it? He wanted to argue, to tell her that it wasn't just a drunken mistake, but the words caught in his throat. Maybe he was the one overthinking everything. Before he could say anything more, her phone beeped, and she pulled it out of her pocket. "Oh, crap," she muttered. "I've gotta go. Zoe just got back in town. We're meeting up for brunch." He looked at the plate of food she'd made for him, the omelet sitting there, untouched. "But you made this for me." "It's for you," she said, but there was an edge to her tone now, something colder, more distant. She grabbed her purse, her movements brisk, as if she couldn't leave fast enough. "Deli, wait," he called out, his voice rising with urgency. "I really don't want things to be weird between us." "They're not," she said over her shoulder, her voice tight. "I just have to go." And then, just like that, she was gone. The door slammed behind her, and he was left standing alone in his apartment, his heart heavy with confusion. What the hell just happened? He looked at the omelet, then back at the door she had just walked out of. Everything had felt so perfect last night, how could it have unraveled so quickly? His mind raced with 1,000 thoughts, none of them making sense. He couldn't remember a time when he'd felt so confused about a woman. Usually, it was him running from relationships, not the other way around. But this was different. This was Deely, the woman who had been his best friend for so long. And now, she was gone. He sat down at the kitchen table, staring at the omelet. It was still warm, but it felt like nothing more than a cruel reminder of the way things had changed. He took a bite, trying to comfort himself with something as simple as food, but it didn't help. Every bite felt like an empty gesture. He could still feel the warmth of her body, the taste of her lips, the way she had responded to him last night. It had been everything he'd imagined and more. But now, it felt like it didn't matter. She was gone, and he was left to deal with the aftermath. He finished the omelet, pushing the emptiness down as best he could. He needed to figure out what had happened, why things had gone so wrong so quickly. But for now, all he could do was take a shower, try to clear his mind, and hope that this wasn't the end of whatever they had. As he stood under the warm water, he tried to wash away the confusion and frustration, but nothing helped. All he could think about was her, the way she had looked at him, the way she had kissed him, the way they had connected. And now, she was gone, and he was left with nothing but memories and a growing sense of uncertainty about the future. Would things ever be the same between them again? Deely was thankful for the cool, overcast weather as she walked along the sidewalk toward the cafe's patio, where she had agreed to meet Zoe. The air felt refreshing against her skin, which was already clammy from the nerves twisting in her stomach. A blazing hot day would have only made things worse. But her anxiety faded the moment she saw Zoe's bright, smiling face. Zoe was wearing the shirt Deely had gotten her for her birthday, cute guys. "Sorry, I thought you said French fries." It always made Zoe glow when she wore it. As soon as their eyes met, Zoe jumped up from her small black iron chair and dashed over to Deely, throwing her arms around her in a hug. "Girl," she shouted into Deely's neck. "I missed you like hell." Stepping back, she held Deely's hand up in the air as she took in her outfit from head to toe. "Damn, you look amazing." "I know the fire sucked, but I think your wardrobe needed that reset." Deely chuckled. "So do you. Am I crazy, or have you actually tanned?" Zoe's skin, normally a rich shade of brown, had deepened into an even darker hue. "You're not wrong. I think even my ass crack has somehow tanned." Zoe grinned with her perfect white smile as they sat down at the small table. Deely couldn't help but laugh. That was Zoe for you, always unapologetically herself. They both sat down and exchanged some small talk. Deely couldn't help but feel the weight of the conversation hanging in the air. It had been so long since they'd caught up properly, and she knew Zoe would want to know what had been happening with her. "So, when did you land?" Deely asked, sipping a glass of water to calm her nerves. "This morning," Zoe groaned. "And girl, I swear I couldn't get away from Chase fast enough." Just then, a waitress with thick, black-framed glasses approached their table. "Can I interest you ladies in alcohol? Quick." "Please," Zoe interrupted with her usual bluntness. "2 Bloody Marys. And 2 Buddha bowls." "Dressing?" the waitress asked. "House," Deely answered, and Zoe nodded in agreement. The waitress smiled and hurried off. "Oh, that actually does sound good," Deely muttered as she sank back into her chair. "Anyway, what happened with Chase? Was it that bad? He didn't, propose, did he?" Zoe twisted her lips to the side. "Let's just say, 2 weeks in another country, being around a guy non-stop is very different from a few sleepovers a week at home. You see a whole new side of each other. Take it from me, if you find someone you think you can spend every freaking day with, without wanting to murder them, you've found the one." "What did he do?" Deely asked, genuinely curious. Trying to control what I drink and eat. Zoe rolled her eyes. He kept asking me, do you really want to have that? And when I said, hell yes, it's freaking vacation. He wouldn't say anything, but that look. You know, at my stomach and thighs just to make his point. Dealey couldn't believe it. What a jerk. Right? Screw that, Zoe exclaimed. Nobody's gonna tell me what I can and can't put into my body. But that's not all, girl. No. He also wanted to tell me what to wear. Not with me, mister. That was definitely a deal breaker. Zoe had never been one to let anyone control her wardrobe, and Dealey respected that. The waitress returned with their drinks and bowls. Dealey poked at her salad, trying not to let the conversation remind her of Ashton. What? Zoe stared at her, sensing something was off. What is it? Nothing, Della mumbled, forcing a smile. I'm just glad you're back. Zoe eyed her with a knowing look. Huh? So how did celebrating with Ashton go last night? Dealey's stomach twisted at the mention of his name. She tried to block the images of the night before from flooding her mind. I wish you'd been there, she said, trying to change the subject. Zoe raised an eyebrow. You're not telling me something, Ying. Dealey let out a heavy sigh. It was a lot. She picked up her drink and took a sip, trying to focus on something else. Zoe's eyes narrowed, clearly eager for details. Dealey knew she wouldn't be able to avoid the topic for long. Oh my God. Did you two sleep together? Zoe gasped. Dealey sank down in her chair, feeling her face burn. Shah, keep it down. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize I'd be expected to keep quiet when my friend just told me she finally gave up on that V-card with the major hottie she's been crushing on for 12 years. Zoe's voice was too loud for the quiet calf. She started bouncing in her seat, clearly excited. Oh my God, you did it. Tell me everything. Dealey buried her face in her hands, mortified. Wait, don't tell me you're embarrassed? Zoe continued. You finally got with Ashton. Girl, I know you've wanted this forever. Dealey didn't even know where to begin. She wanted to pretend it was no big deal, but Zoe knew her too well. It was. Nice, Dealey said, her voice barely above a whisper. Zoe's eyes widened. Nice? Damn, girl. What got into you? Besides that popsicle, I hear you, Dealey replied, laughing nervously. I guess things just happened. Zoe leaned in closer, her voice dropping. Details, girl. I need them. How did this happen? Dealey hesitated, trying to think back. We went out. We were dancing, and I was having fun. I think he got jealous of this guy hitting on me. Then we danced slow, and when the song ended, I thought he was going to kiss me, but he didn't. Huh, Zoe nodded. And then, well, after that, we went back to his place, and I couldn't sleep. We ended up playing a game of truth or dare. But without the dares. We just talked. Zoe interrupted. So, you're telling me you two were just playing a game and then bam! Sex happened? Dealey shook her head. Not exactly. I asked if he had ever thought about what it would be like if we hooked up. He said he hadn't. Zoe's jaw dropped. What? Are you serious? That's crazy. Yeah, it was hard to hear, Dealey admitted. But then, I told him I wanted him to be my first. Damn, girl, Zoe said, raising her glass in admiration. That took some serious guts. Dealey laughed awkwardly, remembering how the evening had unfolded. We kissed, and then we ended up in my bedroom. And the rest. Well, I guess you can imagine. Zoe fanned herself dramatically. Girl, that sounds hot. It was. But when I woke up this morning and saw him sleeping next to me, I felt different, Dealey confessed. I couldn't shake the feeling that maybe he only did it out of pity. Zoe narrowed her eyes, not buying it. Bullshit. You're telling me you think Ashton did that out of pity? No way. Dealey shrugged, unsure of what to think. I don't know. Maybe I'm just overthinking it. Look, girl, Zoe said firmly. Ashton respects you. He's not going to do something like that out of pity. You've got to give him more credit than that. Dealey was silent for a moment, considering Zoe's words. I guess you're right. So, what's next? Have you two talked about it yet? Zoe asked, leaning in closer. This morning was awkward, Dealey groaned. I couldn't face him. I ran off before he had the chance to say it was a mistake. Zoe raised an eyebrow. What if he wasn't going to say that? What if he was just as confused as you are? Dealey bit her lip, unsure of what to say. I don't know. I just don't want things to be weird between us. Zoe sighed. You can't put the genie back in the bottle, honey. It's already happened, and it's not going anywhere. I know. Dealey's voice was small. I just want everything to go back to normal. Trust me, Zoe said, squeezing Dealey's hand. You can't undo this. But you can handle it. You two just have to figure it out. Dealey nodded, still uncertain. She didn't want to lose Ashton, but she didn't want to risk ruining their friendship either. So, Zoe said with a grin, how big was it? Dealey blushed. Really? You want to know that? Zoe wiggled her eyebrows. Hey, I'm just curious. Dealey laughed and rolled her eyes. Let's just say, if I were a guy with that kind of package, I'd be a total slut. Zoe's eyes gleamed with approval. Yeah, men should be required to share that gift with as many people as possible before they settle down. Dealey couldn't help but laugh. As they paid their bills and stood up to leave, she felt a sense of relief. Maybe things weren't so bad after all. The wind against his face as he zoomed down the open highway felt like a much-needed breath of fresh air. The Raphael seemed to disappear beneath him, and for those few hours, he let himself forget everything. He didn't think about anything except the open road and the cold beer waiting for him at the end of it. The guys were riding ahead, and he was close behind, enjoying the moment. But as the familiar red and white sign appeared in the distance, the feeling of peace was quickly replaced by a familiar knot in his stomach. He hadn't been able to shake it all day. Dealey. What the hell was going on with him? By the time he pulled into the parking lot with Sebastian and Raphael, the heaviness in his chest had returned. He killed the engine and yanked off his helmet, running a hand through his hair as he tried to push his thoughts aside. Maybe he could just hang out with the guys and forget about it. Hell, maybe he didn't even need to talk about it. No way he was bringing it up to Raphael, though. That would just lead to endless teasing. But as he walked toward the door, he couldn't help but feel the tension settle back in. Susie's Tipsy Motor Shack wasn't the kind of place that ever made you feel at ease. But it had become one of their go-to spots. The neon beer signs flashed as soon as he stepped inside, and the air was thick with smoke. The loud chatter of bikers filled the space, some laughing and others eyeing the women dancing in their booths. Slot machines lined the walls, and there were a couple of pool tables in the back. The place was a dive, but it had its charm. He spotted Sebastian and Raphael at their usual spot in the corner. The moment he reached their table, Raphael grinned, his usual cocky smirk in place. Nice of you to join us, man. You ready to get your ass kicked at darts? He threw a playful jab at him. Ready for a junk punch, Raphael? He let his jacket fall over the back of his chair before settling in. Sebastian, who was always the more relaxed of the two, gave him a nod. Good to see you, man. Before he could order, Babs appeared at their table. She had her signature beehive hairstyle and a raspy voice that came from years of smoking. But she was one of the sweetest people around. What'll it be for my favorite boys? She asked, popping a pink bubble with her gum. Raphael grinned. Don't try and fool me, Babs. I know you tell every guy in here the same thing. Maybe I do, she winked. But what they don't know won't hurt 'em. Sebastian passed her their menus, and they all ordered the usual. Babs placed a fresh beer in front of him before heading off. The moment the mug hit the table, he found his eyes lingering on the amber liquid. He wasn't thinking about the beer. His mind was stuck on Dealey. The color of the drink reminded him of her skin, and he immediately regretted the thought. What the hell was wrong with him? Raphael caught him zoning out. What's up with you, man? He asked, his voice full of suspicion. He tried to brush it off, shaking his head. Nothing. Just tired. But he knew they weren't going to let him off the hook that easily. It was like they had radar for this kind of stuff. Finally, he caved. All right, fine. Something happened last night. And it's got me all messed up. Sebastian leaned forward, his curiosity piqued. Did you get her pregnant? Raphael immediately jumped in. Do you need an attorney? He chuckled, shaking his head. No, nothing like that. It was a relief to joke around with them. But the truth was that this situation was far more complicated than any legal problem. Dealey's been staying at my place while her apartment's under renovation, he began. I knew it, Raphael exclaimed, slamming his beer mug on the table. I told you it'd happen. He blinked. Told me what? You slept with her. Raphael practically shouted. He winced, feeling his face flush. Don't talk about her like that, he growled. He put his hands up in mock defense. Hey, I'm just calling it like I see it. Did you? Yeah, he admitted. But don't say it like that. She's my friend, and I don't know, it just feels different with her. Sebastian raised his eyebrows. So, now what? You've been friends for so long. Does this mean it's a relationship now? No, he was quick to answer. Absolutely not. I mean, there's a gray area between just sleeping with someone and, I don't know, making it something more. He rubbed the back of his neck, trying to make sense of his thoughts. I think it's one of those things that's just hard to explain. But when I saw her this morning, she was acting weird. Awkward. So maybe it'll just go back to the way it was. Raphael raised an eyebrow. Maybe you didn't hit it like she wanted? He glared at him. You're an asshole. Sebastian laughed, shaking his head at Raphael. You've never stayed with a woman long enough for her to get bored. He rolled his eyes. You two are impossible. But as he sat there, he realized that he wasn't sure if he really wanted things to go back to how they were. Being friends with Deli had always been easy, but the sex. That was different. And it had been amazing. He wasn't sure if he was ready to give that up. I don't know what I want, he admitted, exhaling heavily. I guess I just need to talk to her. See what she's thinking. Sebastian leaned in. You've got to talk to her, man. Communication is the answer to most of your problems. Babs returned just in time to add her own perspective. Talking about it is the least sexy thing you can do. Women like the strong, silent types. Keep 'em guessing. He shot her a half smile. Thanks, Babs. Raphael smirked. You should just leave it alone. Women like mystery. Let her come to you. Sebastian shot him a sharp look. You've never had a relationship last longer than a weekend. You wouldn't know. True, Raphael admitted with a shrug. But if you want to get it out of your system, just have one more hot night together and then move on. He stared at him, baffled. What the hell kind of advice is that? Sebastian rolled his eyes. Yeah, that'll just complicate things more. He sighed, his thoughts racing. Maybe we'll just see where it goes. I mean, we live together. We'll have to talk at some point. That's probably for the best, Sebastian said, clearly agreeing with his idea. They didn't stay much longer, deciding not to play darts after all. They paid for their food and tipped Babs generously, as always, before heading back out to the bikes. As he straddled his bike and revved the engine, he realized that he had no idea what the future held with Delay. But one thing was clear. Whatever happened, he wasn't ready to let go of her just yet. The sun was setting, casting an amber glow over the road as I made my way back into the city. The day had been long, and the weight in the air seemed to press down on me. I needed to face what I'd been avoiding: my apartment, Delhi, and the mess we had created. I took a deep breath and slid the key into the lock, preparing myself for whatever would come next. Act casual, I reminded myself. Like nothing had changed. Like everything was still the same. But as soon as I stepped through the door, I didn't expect her to be there. Her body collided with mine before I even saw her. She was right in front of me, her eyes wide with surprise. Her purse, phone, and keys were clutched tightly in her hands as she stiffened against me. Oh, hey, she murmured, startled. Sorry, didn't see you there. I was just heading out. I froze for a second, caught off guard. The last thing I expected was for her to be leaving. Where are you going? The question slipped out too casually, as if I wasn't feeling the tension between us. As if nothing had changed. To my dad's. He invited me for dinner, she said, relaxing just a bit. But I could still see the uncertainty in her eyes. I haven't seen him since everything happened with my place. Plus, he wanted to celebrate the PhD. Oh, cool. I nodded, but the silence between us felt thick. She wasn't acting like herself, but neither was I.